Welcome back, everyone. Glad to have you with us as we dig into another chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
It's always exciting to dive into this ancient text, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Last time we wrapped up chapter 5, and now we're moving on to chapter 6.
Chapter 6, that's right. And this one really gets into some interesting territory.
It does. It does. It's all about Dhyana Yoga.
The yoga of meditation,
Now, I know
yes.
for some people, as soon as you hear meditation, they start thinking, "Oh, this isn't for me,"
Yeah.
or "This is too out there."
Right. Or they might picture, monks sitting on mountaintops, completely detached from the world.
Exactly. But chapter 6, I think, presents uh, a much more practical approach.
I agree. It's definitely not about escaping reality. It's more about understanding the power of your own mind and harnessing that power to create a more fulfilling life.
Okay, I like that. Harnessing the power of the mind, because we all know how powerful our minds can be, both for good and for, well, not so good.
Absolutely. And chapter 6 really emphasizes this duality. It even says that one must elevate oneself by one's own mind and not degrade oneself. The mind is the friend of the self and also its enemy.
Ooh, that's a good one. And, it's so relatable, right? Because haven't we all experienced those moments where our minds are our biggest cheerleaders,
Yeah.
helping us achieve our goals and overcome obstacles?
And then other times it feels like our mind is working against us.
It's our own worst critic, filled with self-doubt and anxiety.
Exactly. And chapter 6 is saying that we have a choice. We can either let our minds control us or we can learn to control our minds.
So how do we do that? How do we become the master of our minds rather than the other way around?
Well, chapter 6 offers a lot of guidance on this, and it starts with recognizing the importance of balance in all areas of life.
Balance, okay.
That's right. It talks about finding balance in our eating habits, our sleep patterns, our work, and even our leisure
So
activities.
it's like setting up a solid foundation.
Yes, exactly. Because when those basic needs are met, when we're not overdoing it in any one area, then it becomes much easier to create a peaceful and focused mind.
It's like creating fertile ground for those seeds of self-mastery to grow.
I like that analogy. And there's this great quote in the chapter that really emphasizes this idea. It says, "There is no possibility of becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough."
That's interesting. It's almost like a recipe, right? Like if you
Yeah.
want to cultivate inner peace, you need to find that balance in all aspects of your life.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot, that middle ground where you're not swinging from one extreme to the other.
And you know what? This makes so much sense to me because I know from personal experience that when I'm not taking care of myself,
Hmm.
when I'm overworked or sleep deprived, my mind feels like a runaway train.
It does, doesn't it? It's
Right.
hard to find any peace or clarity when you're constantly pushing yourself to the limit.
Exactly. So this idea of balance, it's like a prerequisite, a starting point.
I think so, yes. It creates the conditions for a more focused and peaceful mind.
And from there, we can start to explore those deeper practices like meditation.
Right. Which is what we'll delve into next. Chapter 6 offers some really fascinating insights into the practice of meditation.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. But before we move on, maybe we could just recap the key takeaways from this part of our exploration.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So far, we've talked about the dual nature of the mind.
That it can be both friend and foe.
Exactly. And the importance of finding balance in all areas of life as a foundation for creating a more peaceful and focused mind.
Absolutely. It's like setting the stage for our inner transformation.
It is. It's like creating a sanctuary within ourselves, a place of peace and clarity that we can always come back to.
I love that image.
And from there, we can start to explore those deeper practices like meditation, which we'll delve into next time. I'm really excited to see where this journey takes us.
Me too. Chapter 6 has so much wisdom to offer, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
So until then, keep those minds of yours in check.
And remember, even a little effort towards balance and self-awareness can make a big difference in your life.
Absolutely. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita.
So, last time we were talking about balance and moderation and how that kind of sets the stage for a more focused and peaceful mind.
Right, like creating a fertile ground for self-mastery.
Exactly. And I think that leads perfectly into the next part of chapter 6, which is all about meditation.
Okay, meditation. Now, I have to admit, I've tried meditation before, and sometimes it works for me, but other times my mind just won't settle down.
I think we've all been there. It's definitely a practice, and it takes time and patience to develop that skill of quieting the mind.
So what does Chapter 6 say about how to approach meditation? Are there specific techniques or guidelines?
Well, it doesn't get too bogged down in the specifics, like what posture to use or how to breathe.
No.
It's more about the inner state, the mindset you bring to the practice.
Okay, I like that. Because I think sometimes people get intimidated by all the rules and rituals around meditation.
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming. But chapter 6 keeps it pretty simple. It suggests finding a quiet place, minimizing distractions, and then just sitting with a straight back and a focused gaze, turning your attention inward.
So it's less about the outer form and more about cultivating that inner stillness.
Exactly. And there's a quote in the chapter that really captures this essence. It says, gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by conviction. Thus, the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
Okay, I have to be honest, when I hear that quote, it sounds pretty intense. Like, how am I supposed to just shut off all my thoughts and think of nothing else? I mean, my mind is constantly buzzing with to-do lists, worries, random thoughts.
Right, and that's completely normal. The chapter acknowledges that our minds will wander, especially when we're first starting out.
Oh, good. Because I was starting to feel like a meditation failure.
No, not at all. It's all part of the process. The key is to just keep bringing your attention back to the present moment, back to your breath, back to that inner stillness.
So it's not about forcing our minds to be quiet, but rather about gently guiding them back whenever they stray.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Like any skill, it takes time and dedication.
And you know what? I find that really encouraging because it takes the pressure off of feeling like I need to achieve some kind of perfect meditative state.
Right. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Even a few minutes of focused attention each day can make a difference.
Absolutely. And this makes me think about how that same principle applies to all areas of self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about making these huge, drastic changes overnight. It's about those small, consistent efforts that add up over time.
I completely agree. And chapter 6 actually emphasizes this. It says, there is no destruction for one who strives for self realization. Even a little practice of this yoga saves one from great fear.
That's a beautiful quote. It's like it's giving us permission to be imperfect, to just keep showing up and doing our best.
Exactly. And to trust that even those small efforts will eventually lead to positive change.
So we've talked about the importance of balance, the practice of meditation, and this idea of small, consistent efforts.
Hmm.
But there's another element in chapter 6 that I find really intriguing, and that's the emphasis on love and devotion.
Ah, yes. This is where the chapter takes a really interesting turn.
It does. I mean, I was expecting this chapter to be all about self-discipline and mental control.
Right. It's almost like a surprise twist.
It is.
Mhm.
So how does love fit into this picture of self-mastery?
Well, the chapter suggests that true self mastery isn't just about individual growth.
Okay.
It's also about how that inner transformation radiates outwards, impacting our relationships and actions.
So it's not about becoming some kind of isolated hermit detached from the world.
No, not at all. In fact, the chapter says that the highest yogi is the one who is filled with love and devotion, who sees the divine in everyone and everything.
That's beautiful. So it's not just about cultivating inner peace for ourselves,
Yeah.
but also about letting that peace flow outwards, touching the lives of others.
Exactly. And this takes us to another powerful quote from the chapter. Of all yogis, the one who with great faith always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. It's like it's saying that love and devotion are the ultimate expressions of this
I
practice.
think so, yes. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting from a place of love and compassion.
So it's not just about personal transformation, but about how that transformation ripples outwards, making the world a more beautiful and harmonious place.
Absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful message to end on.
It is. It's a reminder that our inner journey is intimately connected to the outer world.
And that by cultivating inner peace and love, we can truly make a difference.
I love that. So as we move on to chapter 7, I want to leave everyone with this question. How can we each bring more love and compassion into our daily lives?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is, and we'll be back soon to explore more wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita.